Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Up next on Another View, how using the arts, specifically dance, to provoke conversations, internal examinations, and musings about race, gender, and cultural identity. How does your self-image manifest itself through perceptions of family, history, identity, and values? And what role does hair, specifically Black women's hair, play in issues like social status, sexuality, and economics? And have you ever been to a hair party? It's not what you think. We'll talk with members of the dance company Urban Bushwomen. Another View is next, so stay tuned.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. This is a very special weekend for the Virginia Arts Festival. Tomorrow night at 8 at the Attucks Theater, the world premiere of Hair and Other Stories, performed by the Brooklyn-based dance company Urban Bushwomen. It promises to be an experience like no other, and I got a glimpse of what to expect this week when I had the pleasure of attending a hair party with some of the dancers from Urban Bushwomen, and we'll have more on that a little bit later. But right now, let's meet the founder and artistic director, and I'm going to say this right, I promise you, Jawole. Yes, Willa Jo Zollar. She is the founder and artistic director. And also joining us by phone is Erica Hopkins, who attended the one of the hair parties. Hi, Erica. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm doing just fine. So, Jawole, first of all, welcome to Hampton Roads.
Thank you.
I know that you all have been really busy in the community all week, but what is Urban Bushwomen?
Urban Bushwomen is, we started as, our roots are in dance. We started as a dance company, but it was never just dance. It was always working with our voices, working with text, working with theater. But we are rooted in a physical experience.
Okay. All right. You started the company.
Yes.
Back in the 80s.
84.
1984. So tell me what was going on in your life at that time. What was your vision for the company?
I felt like there were stories that I wanted to tell that I didn't see being told, particularly through dance or in the dance community. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there were stories. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, in what people call the inner city. And I felt like there were stories that reflected strength and resilience, and but also told the truth around the landscape that surrounds the inner city. And I wanted to be able to really shed light on those stories.
So what made you get into dance, Tony? Because you studied dance. I mean, in undergrad, graduate. Did you dance when you were a little girl?
Yes. Yes, my mother was a dancer. And my sister, who's visiting here, we grew up dancing together at a local dance studio. And I was actually always the one with two left feet. I was the bookworm. But I always loved the physical sensation of moving and dancing. And so when I went to college, I didn't even realize you could major in dance. So that was a revelation to me. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, I could make this my profession, this thing that I love to do. And so that's the road that I took.
And it took you to New York. Was that because you needed the more exposure to the dance world, or to be able to have a more richer experience, or what?
New York is the dance capital.
That's what I figured.
That's where I wanted to go, and I wasn't sure how it's gonna be. But when I got to New York City, I fell in love with the city. Mm-hmm. I first lived in the Bronx, then Harlem, and then back in the Bronx, and then Brooklyn. And I really love the city. I'm a walker. I love to walk and observe things walking. So New York City is a walking city. So all of that really charged my creative energy.
So as the artistic director, you do the choreography?
In this particular production, that would be true in the past, but even within that, the dancers are always collaborators and generators of movement. Mm-hmm. So it's not the kind of company where I say, okay, here, you do this, and then they follow directions. It's collaborative. We research together. So when there's a project, we all engage in the different areas of research that are interesting to us. And so it's always come out of a collaborative process. In this particular case, the concept is by me. It's based on a work called Hair Stories that I did in 2000. And when people asked to bring it back, I said, well, we just can't. That was a moment in time. So then the two associate artistic directors, Samantha Spiess and Shannon Judson, along with director Rael Myrick Hodges, they're really the creators or the visionaries of this particular incarnation of Hair and Other Stories.
So take us back to the early 2000s when you first did the Hair Stories. What was going on and what prompted that direction?
We would be on the road, and while we had downtime, sometimes in the dressing room or waiting for a plane, we just started telling these stories about the experiences we had with our hair and just how people would react when they encountered us. And so I just started realizing and we'd go to different communities, and people would, there were all these conversations around hair. So when I first started thinking about this work, I did it kind of as a solo, almost stand-up comedy. I was just telling all these stories about hair to people, and it was mostly in a Black community setting, and so people were laughing, and so I knew I was onto something. But then when I had an opportunity to be in a white community setting, people weren't laughing, and I realized, there's certain things they don't know, like when I'm talking about the kitchen. It's like
they don't know what the kitchen is.
And so
well, now we have to explain what the kitchen is.
The kitchen is the hair at the nape of the neck, and the way that I like to say it is that it tells the truth about who you are. So no matter what else is going on, the kitchen is
true to what your real hair is really all about.
Just in the same way that when you're in the kitchen, the way women gather and talk in the kitchen is very different from the formal setting of the living room.
Yes, absolutely. That is very, very true. So can you share some of the stories that you heard back then that you used within Hair Stories?
That I used back at that time.
Back at that time.
Back at that time. Well, I was walking down the street. This was in Brooklyn. And there were a group of teenagers behind me, and I had my hair just out, and it was just kinky. It just was like whatever state I woke up in, that's the way it was. And so I was walking down the street, and I was hearing these teenagers, they were Black teenagers, kind of just saying this little song or chant or rhyme, and I really hadn't tuned in. And then when I was listening, I was like, oh, they were talking about me. They were singing, somebody needs a comb, somebody needs a comb, somebody needs a comb and a brush, somebody needs a comb.
It's very interesting within the Black community. We've done shows on Black women's hair, and it was a huge hit, particularly among non-African Americans, because they were so fascinated to hear about our hair. But hair in the Black community takes on a lot of meanings for our community, as well as different types of meanings within the greater community, would you say?
Absolutely. And we go into that history in the work Hair and Other Stories. We really go into what is the basis of these values around hair.
Now, I want to get into kind of the parties and all of that, and I'm going to bring Erica in just a moment so we can talk about that experience. But two questions I have for you first. One, I noticed the sensitivity, I will say, to the use of the word troupe versus company.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think that, and it's maybe it's more of an internal concern. What we started to notice is that in reviews, we would see mostly other white companies referred to as companies, and they would refer to us as a troupe. And so we were just like, okay, well, what is that about? And what
does the difference mean in the art
professional, world? A professional, or whether you're a professional approach. A troupe is, sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with it. It can be like a group of people, and some people voluntarily, they call themselves troupes. But what we just started to notice is that it was almost like a put down when sometimes in the newspaper they were talking about the Urban Bushwomen troupe, and sometimes we'd often get a lot of questions like, do you all have any training? And
so the assumption, because you do explain the dance type that you do and kind of what it looks like.
We're all contemporary dancers with degrees in dance from universities. Two of our dancers are from VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. And we make a conscious decision to not make the hierarchy of ballet in our training as obvious, but we use more vernacular, social, and dances that come out of the community. We value that. And so when people see that, then their assumption is like, oh, well, anybody could do that, or you all don't have any training. No, we're looking at training and technique on a horizontal plane. There's ballet, there's modern, there's street forms, there's club forms, and we don't see a hierarchy there.
Right. So you could intertwine almost any of it.
Absolutely.
In terms of telling the story that you want to tell.
Yes.
And then the second thing I noticed is that Urban Bush Women has a man.
Yes.
His name is Dubois,
His
right?
name is, yes. Well, we've had men before, but what I like to say, I teach at Florida State University, and I like to say I teach at a HWCU.
An HWCU.
Yes, historically white college university. And Urban Bush Women is historically women. But even early on, we've worked with men have been in the company, and different races have been in the company. It grew out of a group of us that were training together in Harlem at Diane McIntyre, who's one of my mentors, studio. And so that's what it grew out of, but it was never you can't come in and you can't come in. It was always, who am I attracted to work with? Who's bringing their full creative self to the work? And so Dubois is my former student from FSU, he and Stephanie both. And so I just noticed him grow over the years. I'm like, I'm going to work with that person.
As a matter of fact, we have some sound from Dubois about kind of the experience of being in Urban Bush Women. Can we take a listen, Todd?
Hearing Other Stories is a revisioning of an older work, Hair Stories, which was done in 2001. So I think it's about a reflection back to the audience to say you can be your full self. You can be super, you can be vulnerable, you can be powerful, and all of those things can exist in one space, in one body, and you don't have to compartmentalize. So I think it's really about the celebration of oneself in relationship to your hair, to your identity, to the choices you make about who you are.
So that was Dubois talking about this performance, which is a world premiere, which we're really excited about. So you had hair parties throughout Hampton Roads this week, okay? And I had the privilege of attending on Monday night. And Erica, I'm going to bring you back into the conversation. Erica, I did not forget about you.
It's fun. I have actually been enjoying listening to this and getting the history of this story, so no problem at all.
Oh, gosh. But Erica Hopkins is a cancer survivor, and she attended our the hair party on Monday night. Erica, tell us your story first, and then we'll talk about both of our experiences with the hair party.
Okay. So first off, I was diagnosed last year in May with, by the time they found it, it was stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. And you probably are aware that triple negative affects more women of African American descent than other women when it comes to breast cancer. It's also it's thought to be more aggressive than other cancers, and unfortunately, it has less treatment options than other cancers. So when we realized all of this, we very quickly had to make some choices. We went with chemo, an aggressive chemo regimen, which meant that I had 20 rounds of chemo. I did lose my hair. My hair was very long. It was probably about to the middle of my back, and it was natural, but I generally wore it flat ironed. And the interesting thing about losing my hair was I knew I would be affected by it. I don't think I realized how many other people in my life were going to be affected by it.
In what way? In what way, Erica? How were they affected?
They would ask me. That was one of the questions that would come up because I'm from California originally. We came here. My husband's prior military, and when I would call people on the phone, of course they didn't. We weren't FaceTiming. They couldn't see me, but they would say, "Did you lose your hair? Did you lose your hair?" Or even before I lost my hair, they'd say, "Oh, well, maybe you won't lose your hair," or "Oh, what are you going to do when you lose your hair?" And I thought, wow, I mean, I'm trying to save my life, but they were really concerned, and I didn't realize how attached, not only that I can become to my hair, but that others had become to my hair. It was just interesting. It was eye-opening, a little uncomfortable because I realized I would lose my hair. And I guess I didn't know how people would respond once I did lose my hair. But I was blessed. When it started to come out, sometimes people will do that big chop where they'll have a party and they'll shave it or whatever. And I didn't. I just let nature take its course, and I let the hair fall out as the treatments, became more intense, until eventually I went from not wearing anything on my head to wearing a cap to sort of pull what I could back. And then I transitioned to a scarf, and then I transitioned to a wig. And then I got to a point where at home I really would sometimes not wear anything, and I would be okay walking around with nothing on my head. I could look at myself in the mirror, and I wasn't disgusted or scared. I felt I was transformed and I was empowered. And it was okay that I didn't have my hair, but I don't know that I felt comfortable sharing that with everyone else. Like my family, my friends, people that were really close to us, they got to see that, but not everyone else got to see that. And then eventually my hair started to come back, and I was still wearing a wig. And one day my husband said, maybe not the wig. I love your hair the way it is. Do you want to just go out with no wig? And I wasn't ready. And eventually something happened. I don't remember what it was, but something happened where I couldn't wear the wig. And we ended up going to church. And I thought, I don't have my wig on, and people are going to see my hair is, it's short and it's different. And I didn't know what people would say. And people were wonderful. And then we got to go to a play called Glory to Gospel. And I was not wearing my wig, and I didn't know how people would react, but it was wonderful. People were so great, and I was so happy to not have the wig on, and I just felt free. I felt like I was a new me, but the same me, but just a better version of myself. Like I had survived something, and I had a new hairdo that celebrated the fact that I had survived cancer, which was a pretty huge deal. And Hugh Copeland of the Hurrah Players, he kind of titled my hair "My Happy Hair" when he saw my new do, and it just kind of stuck as something to be celebrated and not to feel self-conscious about, or not to have to apologize for, and to just be who I was. And I really like that, and that's kind of the way we look at it now.
And it is beautiful. I mean, we saw her hair is very soft, very curly, and it's beautiful hair. There's no question. When you hear that story as an artist, what do you do with that?
Well, it's a story that we've heard at different hair parties, particularly in the 2000s when we were creating the work. We used the hair parties as a way to learn about this subject. And, we would hear that story and pretty much that same arc of, people being so concerned about you losing your hair more than concerned about your life.
Health, yeah.
And so I know for me also too, it made me think about when I cut my hair off. And Courtney tells a story about cutting her hair recently to see if there's is this the only frame that you have of me as the person with the long hair? Do I have any other value as a person beyond just what my hair is? So the first time I cut off all of my hair, that was kind of my statement, like, I'm just going to be naked here and exposed.
And how did people react to you?
Oh, are you kidding? It's like, you cut off all of that hair. Because the ability to have long hair is a value that is associated with the closer you can get to whiteness, the closer you can have that long, straight hair, then that's value. And so this was in the 70s, and I cut it off because I wanted to make this militant statement. But also, too, my sister who was here, she had been teased throughout her life because her hair didn't grow. as robustly as mine, and mine grew really full. And people would make these horrible comparisons in front of children. Oh, what's wrong with her hair? Oh, Willa Jo has such great hair. What's wrong with her hair? And and I just saw the impact
Cruelty.
Yeah, the cruelty. So I just said, you know what? Let me just take this all off.
That is just so incredibly powerful. And, I'm sitting here thinking, because I went from in the 70s to huge afro, and the 80s, it just got smaller and smaller. And, there's female pattern baldness in our family. And so that's the reason why I wear my hair short, because I just figure, you know what, if it's going to go away anyway, it's not me. Yes. It doesn't define who I am. As long as it's neat and it looks good, for me, thank you very much, then that's what's important. But there is this idea of our hair being our crown and being the definition of who we are, that sometimes is an issue. Do people who don't know you, Erica, that you meet for the first time, do they react any differently because your hair is short?
I've gotten a lot of compliments. People will come up to me and say, "Oh, I love your hair. Don't ever change it." And it's funny because I used to also color it with henna, because I started graying really early, and I thought, oh, I don't want to look, older. I want to, color my hair. So once it started coming back, I was like, I'm not doing anything to my hair. I'm just leaving it the way it is. I like my hair. I don't need to do anything else to it. And people have really responded in a very positive way. Now, some people who have known me for a while have actually said things like, they are surprised I don't want it to grow any longer. I'll say, I don't think I'm going to let it grow long anymore. They'll say, really? Really? You're not going to let it grow out? And I'm like, I'm happy with my hair the way it is. I really like it. And I think I kind of rock a short hairstyle. So I'm not in any hurry to let it grow back out. And, had I not gone through the cancer journey that I went through, I don't know that I would have been able to embrace this part of myself. Yeah. I had long hair for a long time, and I certainly understand, and make sure I'm saying your name right, Miss Jawole.
Jawole.
Jawole. Miss Jawole, I totally understand what you're saying. People in our, I feel like it's more so in our community, really do embrace the idea of long hair or quote unquote good hair. Yes. And there's a frustration with that I don't think I realized I maybe was, I guess you could say, really buying into until I lost my hair. Because one of the things I would do was I did flat iron it quite a bit, which, obviously made it straighter. It made it longer. And I just now, I'm like, no, that's not who I am.
So, Erica, I got to ask you, did you swing it?
Not all the time. Not all the time. As a matter of fact, what I did a lot of times was, even after putting in that work, was I pulled it back and put it in a ponytail.
See?
Yeah, because I'm a mother of 4 kids.
Exactly.
And a wife, and we're busy. And so I had a life outside of my hair, but I think there was an attachment that I had, and like I said, that others had, to my hair. And going on this new journey, it's just, there's something about being able to embrace this side of it and be okay with it, and not feel that my hair needs to identify me. It's a part of who I am. It's not who I am.
Exactly.
And I learned a lot of it from my older daughter, Brianna. She went away to college, and she had done the relaxers and the weave. And we saw a picture of her on Facebook one day, and her hair was completely cut off. It was shaved short, and she didn't tell she was doing it. So I had to look more than once, and I thought, I think that's my kid. This is her Facebook page. But, oh, my goodness, I can't believe she's actually done this. But it looked so good. Yeah. And
Erica, hold that thought for just a second, because I want to bring in someone else who has a similar experience, and we can have an even more rich conversation. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about the intersection of the arts and life with Frito-Lay. Jawole. There we go. Willa Jo Zollar, founder and artistic director of the dance company Urban Bush Women, and Erica Hopkins, who is an attendee at the Urban Bush Women's Hair Party, one of them. And joining us by phone right now is Courtney Cook, who is one of the dancers with Urban Bush Women, and she is from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Hey, Courtney, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing well.
Good. I'm glad. I know you've been in rehearsals and that you're busy rehearsing, so we appreciate you taking a few moments to talk with us. You also had a hair cutting experience recently, didn't you?
Yes. My experience was more of a choice that I made to cut my hair. I've always had big hair. Long hair. Before I went natural, my hair was relaxed, but it was long because I had so much of it. And I always would get compliments about my hair. I think that was probably one of the first things that I would hear people say to me is, "Oh, wow, like you have good hair," especially, from other Black people in the community. But
and Courtney, for those of us in our audience who may not understand that designation of good hair, explain what that means.
Good hair is a looser curl. If it is curled, it's a looser curl pattern. It's long. Usually long hair is associated with good hair. And then also like the fullness of your hair. So if you have really thick, full hair, that's considered good hair.
It's closer to what white hair would be, and as opposed to
white,
right? As opposed to more ethnic hair,
tight kinky curls.
Tight kinky curls. There you go. Absolutely. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So go ahead with your story.
So noticing that that I put a lot of my self-worth and value into my hair made me want to do something about, like, I felt like my hair took up more space than I did. And so I really just needed to release the insecurities that came along with that. And so I just cut it all off. I couldn't take it. I felt trapped in my hair, like constantly doing my hair. And I just needed to be free from all of that. And so I cut it.
And how did you feel once you cut it?
I panicked.
Did you really?
I went home. I looked at myself in the mirror and I panicked. I was just like, what did I do? Like, what did I do to my hair? And I thought about what my family would say. I thought about reactions I would get from men not being attracted to me, possibly. I think family and romantic attraction were
the two biggies.
Were two areas, where I was really concerned. Like, I'm not sure how this is going to work out for me.
So how'd you work through it? Or have you worked through it?
I'm still working through it. Playing with different hairstyles. I think I'm definitely getting used to it, and I'm definitely starting to embrace my face more. I didn't realize that I kind of hid behind my hair, but I'm embracing, like, the features of my face, like how long my face is, and my ears. I can see my ears now, and I'm embracing those things as opposed to feeling shy or insecure about them.
So having done this, how does that impact your performance and your thought and physical placing of yourself in tomorrow night's performance? What does it make you think of or do differently?
I think it allows me to let go. I mean, insecurities with my appearance also come with performance as well. And I think it allows me to be more vulnerable, as opposed to only expressing the good things about myself. I feel like I'm able to kind of shed more. So it's kind of metaphorical for me in terms of my artistry. So now I feel like I can shed and be more open as I'm expressing myself.
So how did you get connected with Urban Bush Women?
Well, I first heard of the company when I was in college from a professor I had. His name was James Frazier. Mm-hmm. And he introduced me to the company. And then my senior year, some of the dancers came to our school. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. Mm-hmm. And some of the dancers from Urban Bush Women came to set the work titled Shelter on a few of us at the school. And so I was introduced to the company and also the process of the company and, you know, how they kind of prompt us into creating together and also bringing out more intention while we're dancing. Mm-hmm. And so that really just opened my mind to the possibilities and also the depth of what dance is as an art form, that it's not just about the steps, that it goes deeper than that. There's research involved. There's trust building involved, theater, text, music, all of those things combined into one. They're feeding each other as opposed to having them being separate. So yeah, after that I was hooked. I was like, I need to continue to be in this circle. Like I have to be with this company.
And so there you are. Actually, I'm going to play a piece that you did. Apparently you were at the third hair party that was held, and actually you were at the one where my producer Lisa Godley was. So that was the second one that was at the Attics on Tuesday night, and you did Wash, Rinse, Repeat. And so I want to play a little bit of that and just get your reaction on the other side. I know you've got to go quickly, but if we could play that Wash, Rinse, Repeat, and then the reaction to it.
To wash, to cleanse, to fix, to make new, to sanitize, to disinfect, to clear out, to sanitize, to wash, to clean, to make new, to purify, to sanitize, to wash, to wash, to wash, to clean, to make new, to fix, to fix, to fix, to clean, to make new, to sanitize, to purify, to disinfect, to wash, 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 lather, rinse, repeat, wash, wash, lather, rinse, repeat, wash, lather, rinse, repeat, 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 wash, lather, rinse, repeat, 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 wash, lather, rinse, repeat, wash, 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 lather, lather, rinse, repeat, repeat, wash, wash, lather, rinse, repeat, 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 wash, lather, rinse, repeat.
What were some of the things that you thought of or that came up for you or that you talked about with your neighbors?
My initial thought was washing the black off. And that was very moving.
In a negative way, it can mean what has happened to Black people or the tragedy that has happened to the Black community as a whole of self-hatred and internalized racial inferiority. But it can also mean, hey, we've got some cleaning to do. We've got work to do on ourselves to heal ourselves. And that wash can represent that work that is being done to find healing.
Courtney, when you said that we've got work to do, that just resonated with me. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah. So a part of being in the company with Urban Bush Women is, you know, just really doing the work. As artists, we are responsible. We are constantly responding to what's going on socially and politically. And so with that, preparing ourselves for conversations that will come out of that, for the assumptions, for the ways in which we're all socialized and conditioned to think. And so a part of what we do in the company is we go through a series of workshops by the People's Institute of Survival and Beyond. And we go through an understanding and undoing racism workshop. And it's really just the tip of the iceberg, I feel like, in really understanding what racism is, how it affects us, and what we can do to reverse those effects. And it's a lot. It's just a lot of deep work, and most of it starts with self.
Wow.
Just constantly, checking ourselves and not going on autopilot, but really when moments arise, where things are problematic, being able to synthesize and analyze that moment. And even if you can't address it at that moment, realizing what work has to be done in order to at least make progress towards just avoiding those types of conflicts. Because we're not going to be perfect, but at least we can work towards a better world and
making things
work
better.
Towards finding our humanity again.
Absolutely. That's Courtney Cook. She's one of the dancers with Urban Bush Women. I hope you have an opportunity, if you haven't gotten your tickets, to get out there and come see this show tomorrow evening. It is incredible. Courtney, we know you've got to go because you're in the middle of rehearsal, so thank you so much for joining us today on Another View. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, take care. Erica, you saw the version of Wash, Rinse, Repeat. You and I were in the same group. What was your reaction to it?
I think I felt a lot like what other people are saying. It was almost like you wanted to wash away or disinfect who you were as a person of color, as an African American. You wanted to be accepted so much by the society at large. That you wanted to almost be transparent. You wanted to blend in so much that there wasn't a whole lot of left of you to signify who you really are as a person of color, because it somehow made you different, but that different somehow was looked at as inferior. I think that's where a lot of the certain processes I did with my own hair came in. Even though I didn't always think that. I love what Courtney said about going on autopilot. Sometimes if we're not careful and we're not being real with ourselves and we're not having those conversations even just with ourselves, we can go on autopilot, and we can find, at least for me, find ways where I was more assimilating than I thought, until I was sort of forced to have to reconcile with that. And that was huge, because when I had lost all of my hair and then it started coming back, I had to reconcile, okay, you've been given the second chance, to me, almost like a new birth of life. What are you going to do with this time? What are you going to do with this new journey? How do you want to embrace this? And I will say I kind of shocked myself because I was so used to doing doing a certain thing, and to kind of come out and be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I didn't see that happening.
So when I was watching the performance, and I wish that there was a way for us to to verbally talk about this performance, but you have this dancer, and she's imitating the process of washing and washing the face and washing the body. And the part that got me the most was when she was on the floor. If you've ever scrubbed the floor with a toothbrush, and you're down in the corner and you are just going at it, it created this response. And I just wonder from you, Jawole, what do you feel when you see it? Because you sat with us as a group, as a part of the group, as opposed to being with the dancers.
Yeah, I experienced the work anew, because hearing, first of all, seeing Samantha do it by herself, because it has been a trio. And so that's one of the questions: is it going to stay a trio, or is it going to be by herself? So seeing it by herself, something opened up for me that I hadn't seen before, and seeing that almost obsession, and then hearing the responses, then I really got to experience it anew, because it became about, for me, about like, this is we're trying to make ourselves acceptable. You know, we're trying to make ourselves acceptable. And then how do we, but cleaning and cleansing can also be renewing. And so how do we come to that side of it?
Because in the dance, it's almost the anger at first of the cleansing. I know I'm scratching myself as she did, but it's the anger, but then at the end, it's also okay, now it's time to turn the page.
Yes.
At least that's the way that I interpret it too. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call if you'd like to join our conversation. We're talking about with members of urban bush women and how they are using dance to interpret and to bring out issues, social issues, if you will, that are going on. So when you listen to the hair parties, and you had 3, if I'm not mistaken, and you did one with Teens with a Purpose, if I'm not mistaken. So young folks, is there a difference in the messaging that you're getting back?
Well, I wasn't at the one in this particular experience of Teens with a Purpose, but I've experienced past ones with younger people. They're just so honest. The filters or trying to, they just speak their experience. And the pain often is sitting right there. A little bit closer is what I find, because they're in that age where judgment and concern about how others feel about you is just right on top. And we've done mother-daughter hair parties, which one of the things, there's a woman named Susan Straight. She's a white woman, and she wrote, I don't remember if it was a book or an article. This was in some of the research, and she has a daughter who's biracial. And so she talked about what she realized within the Black community is the length of time it takes to do the hair was this incredible mother-daughter bonding that was not her experience within the white community, because it was just very quick. And I think that is something that's really special. And so the mother-daughter or the teens and the time that we spend as girlfriends doing one another's hair is a really important bonding time. That I think that, growing up, I didn't know what white people did. So I only knew my experience.
You only knew your experience.
And so I just assumed that everybody spent all this time bonding with one another.
We also have some sound from the hair party where people were talking about the difference between being going natural and going to a barbershop versus going to a salon.
Yes.
Let's take a listen to some of that.
And you can be in there all day. That was one of the reasons once I did go natural, and it was so easy. My son was little, I took him to the barber shop, he got cut, I got cut, I was out. Plus the money adds up when you go into the salons,
Yes, but sometimes when you go to certain salons or shops, it's the community you have with people. People go to talk and catch up and things like that. It's not just about getting your hair done did. You're like, oh, I get to see so-and-so, or I get to see my, whoever's doing my hair and check on them and their family.
Sometimes just doing something for yourself.
Right.
It reminded. I told the story when we all got together Monday night about my experience back in the 70s with the barbershop in Baltimore was called Lenny's House of Naturals. And Lenny's House of Naturals was the spot where anyone from the highest to the lowest would come get their hair cut.
Yes.
And wearing an afro, that's where you went. You went to the barbershop to get your hair cut. But it was also such a learning experience. There would be politicians there. There would be teachers there. There would be pastors there. There'd be, Joe on the corner there. I mean, and everyone was having conversation and talking about the issues of the day, and you could spend all day long at Lenny's House of Naturals if you wanted to. It was an experience, and I think that continues to go on in the hair salons and the barbershops in our community.
Absolutely. It's interesting because that's one of the things that I struggle with, is that I don't really like going to barbershops. Because I feel like it's male space, and they need to be
They need to have their space.
They need to have their space. I need to have my space. And so, and sometimes I really just don't want to hear what they're saying, but it's male space, and I really respect that. So I have trouble, like, sometimes when I'm going into, like, some salons are more male and female, but the all-male space, I really try to avoid.
Well, and then there's the question of to edge or not to edge when you're having the short natural hair.
Yes. Oh, yes, because the men, I always wanted mine very natural, and the men, they always want to, like, make that sharp.
Exactly.
And crisp.
So, Erica, as you are transitioning, and are you cutting your own hair? Or are you going to a salon? What's that experience for you?
For me, because it's just now really starting to come back, I haven't had to cut it yet. But my daughter, like I said, she has gone natural and has very short, very close cut hair. And she has learned very well how to cut hair. She has her own clippers. She even does her little brother's hair sometimes. And so she actually will be the one doing my hair. And I do feel like it will be a nice bonding experience for us. It'll be a different kind of bonding experience because normally when she, of course, growing up, I would do her hair. And, she was, I think, in some ways braver than me because she went and made the choice to do the chop and has really embraced that. And she has been so helpful on my journey. And so I know she'll be the one. Now, I don't know if I'm going to edge or not edge, but we'll play around with that. We'll play around with that and see what works best. But yeah, definitely she'll be the one cutting my hair.
So let me ask both of you ladies, where does this concept of because you have short hair, you're not feminine come from?
I think that's in both in the Black community as well as in the white community. I don't know where it comes from. I do know that when I cut all of my hair off and everybody said, make sure you wear makeup, put on big earrings. And there was one time when I've cut my hair all off. It's usually every 7 years I just cut it all off. Mm-hmm. But this was one time I cut it all off. And, I was tiny. This is when I was in college. And I realized I had to ask for the restroom, and they directed me to the men's room. And I was like, and at that time in the 70s, women didn't go to the men's rooms. So it was like the assumptions around, and men would have to really speak to what is that about the long flowing or a lot of hair. When I had this huge afro, it was bigger than me, I would get much more male attention at the time in the 70s. So they would have to really
The phone's just lit up. I think you're going to get your answer. But what do you think it is, Erica? What is that about?
I have to say, I don't know. My mother, by choice, wore her hair very short, almost like in a Halle Berry cut for the majority of the time I was growing up. And this, again, was in California. And she, she was a single mom, but she didn't seem to be unattractive to me. And I never thought of it as looking manly. But I was told, it's funny that she said that, I was told when I said to someone that I didn't think I would let my hair grow long again, I was told to wear makeup and wear jewelry, which I will be honest was kind of off-putting to me. I was surprised at that response. I thought, I'm still me, and I didn't think that having my hair shorter made me look so different that in order for people to define me as a woman, I needed to have on makeup and jewelry, and particularly because I don't wear a lot of makeup and jewelry. So that would be just something very new and different. So that was a comment I wasn't expecting, and I was kind of taken aback by that. Needless to say, I haven't really changed a lot of who I am. If I want to wear makeup, I do. If I don't, I don't. And I'm okay with that. I like me, and, that's okay. But I do know that some people do feel that it's more feminine to have longer hair. I don't feel any less feminine now that my hair is shorter. Mm-hmm. I guess that for me, what I've gone through is way bigger than if somebody feels uncomfortable because my hair is short. I'm like, that's not something that I feel I need to embrace. But I do know that some women, unfortunately, have found that men maybe don't respond the same way, and I don't know where that comes from. Like I said, my mom has short hair, my daughter has shorter hair, now by choice. I have shorter hair. And I think that women look pretty cool with short hair.
Then
so.
there you go. Absolutely. We're down to about 3 minutes left in the show, so I want to ask you, Jawole. I will get it right. What else should we expect tomorrow night? What should we expect?
One of the things about Urban Bush Women is just let go of your expectations about what you think a dance company or a dance presentation is going to be as we delve into this idea and what you think dance looks like. If your reference point is Dancing with the Stars, it's not going to be that. If it's So You Think You Can Dance, it's not going to be that. But just to be open to what an embodied experience can communicate around the society that we live in that has such this obsession around hair and this history around hair. We're going to go a lot into the history.
Okay, now, and I wanted to ask you as a final thing, where are we in the arts in terms of our community and the arts? Are we supporting? Can we do better? What do we need to be doing?
Well, we're creative people. We've always supported being creative. Now, how that support transitions into sponsorship or supporting nonprofits and different local communities, I think we can absolutely do better. But we know that creativity is highly valued in the Black community. And I would really love to see our community be very responsive and robust against the cuts to the NEA that are trying to happen. I'd really like to see our community speak very loudly and clearly about why the arts are important. We know it. We see it. We see young people transformed through their experiences in the arts, and we have to speak up.
Absolutely, we do. Erica Hopkins, a cancer, not only just survivor, but thriver, and who is doing very well. Thank you, Erica, so much for joining us today on Another View. We really appreciate your time with us, and hopefully we'll see you at the performance.
Oh, yes, definitely. I already have my ticket.
Okay. Fantastic. And Jawole, did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did. Absolutely. Willa Jo Zollar, the artistic director and founder of Urban Bush Women. Wishing you the very best tomorrow night. And I know it's going to be an awesome performance. Well, so thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for taking this time to really bring so much attention to not only the work, but the larger issues. Fantastic. Really wonderful.
Thank you so much. And we will be right back.
I'm with Marcellus, and you all are checking out Another View. Don't go anywhere. Check us out.
And that's Wynton Marsalis. He will be at here in Hampton Roads at Chrysler Hall on May 5th. So you can go out and check him out too. Urban Bush Women, Hair and Other Stories premieres tomorrow night at 8 at the Addicts Theater. Tickets are available, so go check them out. Next week on Another View, cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby joins me to talk with author Dan Brule, whose book Just Breathe shows us how mastering breath work helps us to be successful in life, love, business, and beyond. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn filled in today for Victor Bowen, our audio engineer, and Jada Baden answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thank you so very much for listening to Another View.